the way that most people think is acute. They think like this, but the way I'm trying to see it is I'm trying to be open-minded.
Welcome to Oracle Unveiled. Who are we here with today?
The Kid Ghost.
Awesome, awesome, the Kid Ghost. I want to start you off with one of my favorite questions that I ask every artist. It's why do you create?
Why do I create music?
Yes.
The liberty of just feeling free. You know what I mean? It's a liberation for me. I express so I can decompress mentally. Everything that, mentally, physically, emotionally, everything that I feel, everything that I deal with, I try to portray it in a different manner. You know what I mean? Instead of holding it all in.
Absolutely. What would you say is the most difficult emotion to portray in music for you?
Most difficult?
Yeah.
Oh man, probably just vulnerability. You know what I mean? Showing a more softer side. I feel like that's something that I'm working towards. You know what I mean?
I was taking a listen to your album and to speak on the softer side, there is a song that you have there that's called Time. Is it Time Got Hard or Time Gets Hard?
Yes.
Would you say that vulnerability played, a huge part in that song? Because listening to it, I was like very expecting a different image going in, and in the process of listening to everything, and because it's the album is called Echoes of a Future King, yes,
Correct.
and
Correct.
yeah, Time Gets Hard. I was listening to it, and it was a very deeper song to me compared to anything that I've seen or expect from you.
Right.
So,
And I'm glad you pointed that out, because that was kind of like the turning point of my life the past year or so. So the album is laid out in chronological order. So from the start of the album to the last song is every order, like where I wrote the songs, right? And so it kind of takes you through this journey in my life of mixed, this roller coaster ride. And so times get hard. It was right after my father passed, and it was the first song that I wrote being back here in Dallas, so it was kind of me just taking everything in and pouring it out, you know what I mean?
that is very beautiful. If you don't mind, is this a recent event? Your dad passing?
About a year.
Oh, that is. Sorry to hear that. And the fact, because listening to that song, I could tell like it felt different. It was an experience. Like the things you were describing, I felt like I was in there with you. Like I could see what you were saying, and you mentioned your girl in it, and like what you were trying to express something to her, and then it started off kind of like you didn't want her to see, almost, if I'm not misunderstanding what you were saying.
Correct.
But then at the end of the subsequently you dove into trying to put her into understanding,
Right.
what that was. It was beautiful. I did not even know exactly what that moment was about, but it felt different to me. It felt like an experience worth noting, which is why I wrote it down, because I was like, this is a song to point out. Like I was like, I needed to see or hear more about it, and that was surreal, to hear.
Yes.
About the song. And this is like what you were describing there, that areas, is this exactly where it was, or was it something that's
Well, it was so like right whenever I got back to Dallas.
Yes.
So my father passed, I moved to Dallas, and it was just, being back, riding through the same streets as I was as a child.
Yes.
So just everything, flashbacks coming to me, and so it just kind of put into retrospect of where I was, where I am, and where I'm going. You know what I mean?
That is surreal and just point blank monumental, I mean, re-listening to that song, when we're done here, when I go listen back to it, it is gonna definitely put me in a different headspace,
Right.
really understanding that. Because you mentioned something about it's the last place that you saw, like something about a smile or like,
Yeah, my best friend Dakota.
yeah, that stood out to me so vividly.
Hmm.
And it got me to thinking, where was the last place that made me feel, like that?
It was at his house. That was the last place that I saw him smile. And so where through that verse, I was riding down our block that we grew up on,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a house where my buddy Nick he ran through the mailbox and he completely just knocked the mailbox down, totaled his car. So it was a funny story. And then couple blocks down, that's where Dakota's house is. That's my brother Dakota, and
Wow.
that's where he lost his life, at that house, and we spent a lot of good times there. So, it hit hard. Coming back home, I can't see my father, I can't see Dakota. There's a lot of changes, and it's like that realization.
That street just seems to hold so much good and bad for you. I couldn't
Hmm.
imagine just like the heftiness
Hmm.
like that
Hmm.
I would feel threading. I don't even know if I would even want to go near a street like that because I don't even know what that would do to me. So
Yeah.
that was incredibly brave, like just facing
Hmm.
your emotions and facing who you are. It just goes to show, the kind of people that we are, just
Exactly.
whenever things like that, like you find yourself in that situation, you find yourself in the place that holds so much weight,
Yep.
like
Yep.
what it does to you and what it makes you feel. That is surreal. That is
Sometimes we need that, you
we
know what I mean? Because
we
that was something that I've been holding on to me, you know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? Part of grief,
mm-hmm.
that I've been holding on to. So I like to walk through those streets. I like to relive it in a different manner. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
absolutely. That's monumental, which it was going to lead me to the next question, if there was a time you've created out of pain, but I suppose that track would be it,
That would be it.
because
Yep.
that song really comes from a place that not a lot of the things you create comes from,
True. True.
it carved its own lane, it
Hmm.
carved its own meaning, like as soon as it came out.
That's true. Yep.
That is really, yeah, that's insane. And I really appreciate you sharing that, not just to
Thank you.
me as a person, but to anyone that would, be listening and
Hmm.
watching you and that, could either relate to this or would subsequently use this experience to enhance themselves to be like, don't run away from the hard things,
Yep.
don't run away from the hard places.
And I'm glad you said that because most of my childhood, that's all I did was, I run away,
Mm-hmm.
because I was bullied a lot growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's all mentally I knew was run away, run away, run away,
Mm-hmm.
and so being back, I can't run away. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm here for my mom, I'm here for my family now. Losing my father, so like I can't run away no more. Like I have to face things. I have to realize like I'm not that person no more. I'm grown. I'm better. You
Yeah,
know.
you kind of have to, and it's just such. I feel like also that's kind of a very huge thing to place on the shoulders of a young man, like that. You have to come to terms with it.
Yep. Yep.
There's two ways this could have gone. The path that you chose are the
Hmm.
exact opposite, and who knows what you possibly could have ended up being or looking like at the end of the other road. It probably wouldn't be anything pretty, but
Yeah. Well, I
it's
got shot in 2000 and what was it? 2016.
yeah.
That right before I moved back to California, I got shot. That's what made me move to California, was
Mm.
just so I can get away from all the shit that I was doing out there in Dallas. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So, yeah, life was crazy, man.
Yeah, it
And
does. I mean, because I did hear about, because following, I've been following for a while. I keep
hmm
track of people because potential stands out to me
hmm
a lot as a person. So I did catch a whiff of that story. I didn't
hmm
know everything about it. I only knew as much as you said,
hmm
about it. And
right.
I believe you spoke about it, a little bit there for a while. Sometime this year is when
I did.
you actually spoke about it. And I heard that. I was like, that's insane. And even though I haven't been in a situation like that, I could relate in the sense that that's right down a
hmm
city for me. I'm
right.
in Dallas every single weekend due to the
Right.
lifestyle that I live,
hmm
due to what I do. I'm I'm in that place where something that hard and surreal happened to someone that I know, and that's like, that's insane to me because it's like we could have easily swapped. It could have been
True.
me, not you, because it's the exact same place. The place
True.
hasn't changed.
Exactly.
What was different was the people in it.
Yep.
So it makes, that's how I view things. And I might be a little weird and quirky for seeing things that way, but it's just like it could be anyone.
Could be.
It happened to
Could be.
you, but you reacted differently when it did happen. You moved away from it.
True.
You tried to change environment. I mean, and even being back now, it is not exactly the same anymore because you're not coming back the same person that left.
True.
You're coming back with a new perspective. You're coming back with a new mentality about this place, this city. And you learn to look at it differently, to view it from a different standpoint because it's
Got
not the
that
same
outside
anymore.
perspective from it.
Absolutely, and in perspective to how you left versus now, it doesn't sound like something that can consume you so much more like it did before.
True.
It's not just something that happened.
Yep.
You learn from, you saw. That's just that's what it is now, and you using that experience to enhance your tomorrow, and I find that to be a really really beautiful thing. So
Thank you.
yeah, that was really, that was something. I'm curious, can you tell me about a time you lost faith in your work or passion? What pushed you to that point and how did you get out of it?
Oof, man. Again, just recently, this whole move. Being on the sidelines, from the point I was at in my career before my father passed, I had any opportunity. I was opening for all the big names that came to Fresno, I was that guy, you know what I mean? And then everything happened with my father, and now I'm sitting on the sidelines. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm sitting on my hands, and it hit me. I was like, damn, maybe this wasn't the best move. Maybe this just killed my career. And, I had to remind myself that, 10 years ago, I moved to California with nothing but my backpack full of clothes, suitcase full of clothes. And I built businesses, I built relationships, I built, connections. And I wouldn't be who I am today if I wasn't, I didn't make that move to California. So it all just kind of, hit me like I'm in the same position I was where I was in California.
Right.
So instead of seeing it as a roadblock, just see it as like a stepping stone to I can grow. I can keep. I've done it before. I could do it
Right.
again. What's different? There's nothing different. You know what I mean? I just need to get busy and shake hands. That's all I need to do.
Right, which is mostly, that's the majority of what the music business is: getting busy, shaking hands, connections, like talking to people and making impressions, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but impressions nonetheless, to where you are memorable and you are worth getting
yeah.
to know, because that's
Oh
what
yeah.
we're selling. We're selling an experience, we're selling a story, we're selling something.
A
And
connection point.
exactly. So if what you're selling has no substance, like if you're selling an empty packet, then it's not gonna get bought, basically.
True.
So, but you've done this before, and this is just like a second go at it. And yeah, I that's a very good and unique perspective to look at these kinds of things, and that's something that I wish a lot more people would do, because every setback
Yes.
is not necessarily a go against you. It's literally like you said, it's just another go around, basically.
Sometimes you just need to reevaluate. That's it.
I'm curious, with your creative process, when do you know that a song is actually done? Like you're like, okay, I've given everything to this song, that's good. Now it's ready to go out. Like, how do you know that you've gotten to that point?
Man, sometimes it just takes my manager 88 to tell me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because end of the day, I'm an artist, and I feel like every artist, to a certain degree, is a perfectionist.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We always want to make it better. We always can find something we can tweak. But this album Echoes of a Future King is a testimony of just putting shit out. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to go back. I wanted to fabricate it, make it sound better, make it this goal of, I had a goal of what I wanted it to sound like. And nothing like that, but I dropped it anyways. You know what I mean? So it took me a lot, but it's just, a roadblock you got to push yourself through sometimes.
Absolutely. I get that. Because, like you said, as artists, everyone is, a perfectionist to a degree. Sometimes you tweak and tweak and tweak and tweak, and then you just tweak it into being horrible.
Exactly.
So it is good that, you have that second opinion that can be like, yo, man, this is solid.
Right.
People need to hear this. This is good enough, because left to you alone, it probably would never come out because you're still chasing that perfection. And I think some people, even myself included, most of the time, we miss the lesson that the beauty is in the imperfections when it comes to art.
That is true.
That's what makes it not AI. That's what makes it unique to you. Because only you could have made that mistake at that particular time. Only you could have punched in just a little bit early with that tone, or punched in a little bit late, but it became a new tempo and it gave you a new. It's only you could have done that.
True.
Only you could have made me feel the way your song made me feel when I heard it. Because two songs stood out to me in that album. It was a beautiful piece of work. Two jumped out to me. One of which we just spoke about, and then the other one jumped out to me. I think it was mainly because of the line. I pay my phone bill when my phone pays me. That was clever. It was such a Wayne thing. Like it was because I'm obsessed with Lil Wayne. So every time I hear artists that make me feel like I'm listening to him, I appreciate the genius on both parties even more. Because it's like, wow, that is so clever on 10,000 different levels that if you start to break it down, it's just amazing. So
Thank you.
I really love when I heard that song jumped out to me, and then I was like, this is beautiful. And then it was the song right before Time Gets Hard, I believe. So but I love that. That was unique. I loved hearing it, and
Thank you,
so imagine not putting that song out. Just like what what are we doing?
Exactly.
Like just that not coming out and that not making an impact in a moment in my life.
Or I could have been perfectionist mode and I could have tweaked that bar a little differently, and see, you just got to drop it how it is. Sometimes you just got to find that cutoff point and be like, this is it. No more.
Absolutely. That is beautiful. I have another one where do you think your art should comfort people or challenge them?
Oof, that's a really good question, actually. I feel like it really just depends, because music to me is like when I wake up, I'm on a different vibe every single day. You know what I mean? So, I feel like it just depends on the person, what their overall goal is, what they're looking for. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Personally, I like music that challenges people to think. You know what I mean?
How do you balance vulnerability with privacy while writing or sharing your art?
Ooh, that's a good question. Really trying to find that balance, you said, of privacy and still expressing.
Yeah, how do you balance it? Because they're very similar. Where it's like you have to be vulnerable for people to feel you, but at the same time, how do you balance that with not letting people into your life too much? How do you balance that without telling them every single detail about you? Because
that's a really good question. I think you got to find topic points. You know what I mean, that you want to speak on. Like I speak on my kids, I speak on my wife. But I keep it very like surface level, you know what I mean? So I show a different side, but I don't really dive too much into it, you know what I mean? So, I feel like just really keeping minimalizing how you say things, you know what I mean?
Understandable. Okay,
you know what I mean?
So just picking, the words that portray what you're trying to say without giving explicit details that
Right.
could later down the line either hurt you or
Mm-hmm.
shed a bad light
Right.
to what you're trying to say.
Because
Okay.
like you could tell a story about how your kid's going to school, you know what I mean? But you're not gonna drop like the name of your
Or
kid, the
school.
name of the school, like you know
Right.
what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
so, trying to find that borderline of where to cut it off.
Yes. Yes. I can see that. I can see that. That's how do you sorry, I was gonna say, do you think spirituality or religion has impacted your art in any way?
I do, yes. It's helped me become more open minded. You know what I mean? Because before I was just I was very narrow minded. This is what I believe. This is what it is. This is, you know. But like I said in a recent song, the way they think is acute, the way I think is obtuse. You know what I mean? And the way that most people think is acute. You know, they think like this, but the way I'm trying to see it is, I'm trying to
Right.
be open minded. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I
If you
think
don't mind saying, are you more religious or spiritual?
I'm
Or
more
neither?
spiritual.
More
I'm more
spiritual.
spiritual. Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. Because, religious people, I don't know if it's a point to or against them, they are very, this is it, you know. But
This is
religion,
my way, the highway
exactly.
type thing.
Yeah, but then I'm seeing spirituality is much, much more broad. And the reason why I also said I don't know if it's a point for or against them is because I'm religious,
Right.
But
Right.
that's also, that's just who I am. That's helped shape me. That's
Right.
helped shape, the way I view things and the way I view my life. So,
True.
but at the same time, I do notice the flaw. Nothing is perfect, I do notice the flaw in the way religion is being pursued,
Right.
if that makes sense,
That is true.
because, despite it supposedly being a divine thing, it has to be, humans have to be the conduit to that divinity.
Yes.
And humans,
Yes.
as we know, are not perfect.
True. True.
I mean, we're seeing weird cases of pastors, being indicted for, either sexual assault, abuses of one degree or another, or the infamous cases of like Catholic priests and stuff like that. So
Right.
the conduits for the supposedly pure divinity is soiled.
Right.
It's impure.
And that's why, I grew up, going to church. I think it stopped probably when I was 8 years old, I would say. But there were a couple years where we would go to church and stuff like that. But, as life progressed, I'm more of like a self-governing type of person. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like I need to go to a church for somebody that I don't know to tell me what I need to think or what I need to feel about. You know what I mean? I think we need to find it within ourselves. You know what I
Right.
mean? Whatever feels right to us may not feel right to the next person. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So
Absolutely.
I think it's all just a deep dive into who we are. You know what I mean?
Which I believe, the way that I've been coming to understanding religion, what you just explained is what it's trying to say. To the best of my understanding.
Right.
It's understanding the God within to then be able to see with a better eyes the God outside of you,
Exactly.
the God
Exactly.
in everybody.
Exactly.
But it has to come from within. Like you have to come to that full knowledge and understanding that there is something inside of you that, that's more than what meets the eye, basically. So what you explained is not very far off to what I believe,
Right.
and that's
Right.
the beauty in all of this. Despite it being different denominations and different stuff, it is all connected somehow.
True.
And
True.
that's what I feel like we need to focus on more than, oh, he doesn't believe in what I believe.
Right.
So,
Right.
or I need to hate him because he has his own sets of beliefs or his own sets of attractions, like we can all be different but same, if that makes sense. So
There's
that
too
is-
much division going on in life.
Absolutely.
Too much division.
it's a little too much, I feel like, because it's causing so much unnecessary pain and suffering, and like you could look at what's happening in like the Middle East right now. It's all stemming from that.
Yeah.
A little bit of it, at least, or like the basis of it has to do with what this person believes and what the other person believes. And the way I look at it is it's a piece of land. Y'all are gonna be gone in 100 years. It's not gonna matter anymore to you, but you are just so comfortable keeping conflicts alive
Right.
for generations.
Exactly.
And to me, that's not, that's not cool. If that is the basis of what you believe in, then I don't want to be a part of it.
Right. Right.
But to me, you're not even understanding what you're reading from your holy text.
True. True.
Because if you did, you're skipping the whole part about love, respecting your neighbor, loving your neighbor, and you're jumping straight to the murder beats. It's just like,
Right.
we're supposed to
Right.
be past this, we're
True.
supposed to be past this with civilization. So that boggles my mind on so many different levels, but I understand it. I'm not, it is what it is. I have no power. I am just one man
True.
with a single thought,
True.
But hopefully if we ever get to a position where we could effect change, we could remember where that original thought stemmed from, how we are all one at the end of the day.
True.
Basically. That's just the hope, How do you measure success beyond plaques, numbers, and streams?
Honestly, just how I can make people feel. You know what I mean? Like, whenever I go around town and, people, they say, yo, what up, Ghost? Or what up, kid? Or, it's just things like that. People recognize, people feel what I feel. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, that is a good way to measure it, because I feel like some people can get pretty obsessed with the numbers. I know I sometimes do. I'm refreshing Spotify for artists at least 10 times a day.
Right.
And
Right.
refreshing Apple Music for artists and looking at all them numbers and stuff, because I'm trying to see what's changing, what is getting more attention, why, and what's not. If
Right.
that makes sense. So I do get obsessed with that, and I feel like a lot of people do that too, artists especially. So we need to kind of shift the focus and come back into what matters, like
Right.
the actual impacts that you are having on real, actual people in everyday life.
Well, and there's this thing. It's funny you say that. There's this thing that I was listening to or I was reading. It was like social media has our minds so, discombobulated of what likes and what the actual metrics of it are. Like, we see 10 likes and we're like, damn, like that's a flop. But if you imagine 10 people jumping you, that's a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? So like, whenever you put it into perspective, you know what I mean? Like,
the one that I saw was very vulgar. It was the exact same thing. It was like, they said imagine 15 gorillas trying to rape you.
Exactly. That's a lot. It's a lot.
I was like, one is too much, bro. What the hell? Like,
it's all about perspective.
Yeah, that was vulgar. But it drove the point across.
Right, yeah.
It drove the point to where it's supposed to be. It's like, 15 is a lot.
That's
like,
right. That's right.
Yeah,
Right.
you need to be more, because I also got it cut in my head. Like, I have 5,000 followers, maybe more. And I'm also saying, like, when you go to follow someone and they follow who you follow, there are people that when I go to follow, it's like, oh, they have mutuals with me in 200 to 300s. So these are people I know, I have met, and we are mutuals. And I'm like, dang, like, do they not see it? Like, I'm not seeing any of those engagements, any of those love.
Right.
And it makes me go, oh, I'm not being heard. Maybe I shouldn't be posting as much. Am I being annoying or something like that? But it puts into perspective. The ones that do see and engage, those are real people. They are real appreciative, and that should be enough for now, until you keep elevating, keep growing. But it is discouraging, like I say. Once you're putting all that work, and like I'm starting stuff right now, and it's like, I have a lot of people expressing interest to be a part of, but then they are not even encouraging what is so far.
Right.
So it's like, you're only interested if it benefits you,
Right.
Which it's a way to look at it, basically. But what you said, it does count. The 15 is enough.
Right.
If you put 15 people in a room and you entertain them and they absolutely love it,
Oh yeah.
that should do,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Oh
which is
yeah.
why I try to approach some performances, excluding open mics,
Mm-hmm.
but some
Mm-hmm.
performances, most of them anyway, I give my all. Just like the same way I'm going to entertain 20,000 people, I want to entertain 20 people
Oh,
the
for
exact
sure.
same way.
For sure.
So, yeah,
Well, and
that,
you never know who's gonna be in the room, man. You know what I
right.
mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
shout out to my man PJ.
Mm-hmm.
He's a local artist from the Dallas area. He was just out at he was out at some event. You know what I mean? There's
Mm-hmm.
probably 10, 15 people in the crowd, but one person, his name's Morris. Morris, he goes around and he's a event coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he does like South by Southwest. He brings in big name artists. So he
Mm-hmm.
was a scout in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it looked like, there was only 10 people, but one person mattered. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
You
you
never
gotta give
know.
it your all, no matter what. No matter if it's one person, no matter if it's 100,000. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
That's absolutely right, man. Do you ever have a fear of being misunderstood through your work?
yeah, all the time, honestly. But I keep going. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because at the end of the day, like it is for the mass majority, but at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, it's for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, yes, while opinions do matter,
Mm-hmm.
they really don't when it
Okay.
comes to my art.
All right. Out of curiosity, if you were meeting a stranger for the first time
Hmm.
and y'all got into talking and they now learn that you make music, what are three songs from your catalog that you would recommend for this person to better encapsulate who you are and what you do?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably that call.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Let It to My Bro,
Mm-hmm.
and then probably shit, man. That's a good question. Probably What's It Feel Like.
Okay.
That's like a three different vibes right there, I would
Okay.
say.
Why'd you go with them? Is there something special that stuck out in those tracks that you feel like, a stranger would resonate with more or?
Yeah, story, feeling, and just connecting points. You know what I mean? I feel like all three of those songs tell my story. They all have like they connect with you on a different level.
Mm-hmm.
One amps you up, one gets you in your feelings, and then one's just like that feel good, like what I mean, chill
Mm-hmm.
song. So um, yeah.
Has anyone ever made you feel like you did not belong in the creative space throughout your experience that you can think of?
No, not that I can think of, honestly.
Mm-hmm. What
I
about the flip side of that? Have you had experiences where people went out of their way to make you feel welcome in the creative space?
Yes, man, shout out to Fash, shout out to all my homies back in California and Fresno, man. They saw the talent in me, and even though I was an outsider,
Mm-hmm.
I was new to the city. A lot of people, stuck their arm out for me
Mm-hmm.
and helped me out in certain ways. So, definitely Fashion, definitely 88 Drums,
Mm-hmm.
Marceau, Saturn, my guys back home.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, it looks like Fresno has been something of an impact to
hmm
you in,
hmm
the few years that you've been there. How long were you
very.
there?
I was there for 7 years.
7 years.
7 years.
Interesting, yeah. And you feel like being there has shaped the way your art looks these
Oh, for
days?
sure, for sure. I feel like Texas raised me, but Fresno is what made me. You know what I mean?
Understandable.
Because the mentality that I got is Dallas, but the shape of it
Mm-hmm.
was Fresno. You know what I mean?
Understandable.
Because out there in Fresno, it's real hungry, it's real
Mm-hmm.
gutter, it's real like this is do or die. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because you walk down the street, you see homeless people, you see
Mm-hmm.
kids in tents, you see like you see real life.
Yeah.
So
I was just about to ask, like, what's the vibe out there? Is it more like competitive or just more friendly or like,
competitive,
competitive?
competitive for sure. I feel like the energy out there is night and day out here. You know what I mean? Like out
Mm-hmm.
there, people look at you as like I could be better than him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Versus like out here, it seems to be more collective, more like welcoming, more of like, hey, let me showcase you, and
Okay.
you know what I
I
mean?
mean, what do you think you would prefer? that the competition or the collaboration? What would the Kid Ghost like? What do you resonate more? Collaboration. Yeah,
Collaboration.
that is a very artist answer, and that's because I feel like we just have that innate feeling to express.
True.
And we always just fall in love when we see other forms of expression that can merge with us.
Right.
Competition is good. It sharpens you. Don't get me wrong. Like competition gets you going. It makes you feel like, okay, let me up my game.
Yep.
How can I be better?
Right.
But
Also puts you in a nasty mindset. You know what I mean? Of I feel like when in that mindset of trying to one up, it's you're looking at somebody else's work in a different manner. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I feel like
not necessarily a positive light when you're looking.
correct, because you're more what's the word I'm looking for when you're hyper focused on yourself. You know what I mean? A narcissist, so to
Okay.
say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're focused on improving. You know what I mean? Versus a more collaborative where it's like, what kind of ideas can we bounce off of each other? You know what I
Right.
mean? And how can we both benefit out of this? You know what I mean? Instead of me taking this and taking that energy and boosting myself up.
Right.
You know, I don't know.
I do feel like collaborations, are better felt than competition. All competition does is fan flames, but it dies out eventually.
Right.
And it's like it's never gonna have the same. That's when they say hits versus classics.
True.
Classics would feel the same no matter the time or era you played. Hits are only hits when they were hits. After a new hit comes through, it's no longer the hit of that moment.
Right.
So that's what competition does, I feel like.
True.
Competition, it creates hits, yes, but it's not gonna feel like a hit anymore tomorrow when a different hit takes its place.
True.
Because it gets dethroned. So competition is fierce, keeps you sharp, cool, but the collaboration, the feeling you pour into creating a masterpiece, into creating an expression, it's always gonna stay.
That's true.
It doesn't lose its value. It doesn't lose, it doesn't lose that feeling. It doesn't lose either the warmth or the cold that was poured into it.
Right.
It doesn't lose. That's what I love about collaboration.
True.
And the one thing that, I feel like kind of almost sucks about it is, there is, it's when you're working with people that don't share the vision. As much as like you could be like, wow, that kid is so insanely talented, but I cannot do nothing with him because he's not as serious with the craft, or I cannot do nothing with her because she's not as dedicated. Mind you, real life comes into play. You could have other responsibilities that overshadow the work that you need to do.
Right.
Happens every time.
Yep.
But I feel like, people that want it enough carve out and section out that time and responsibility to be able to be and do what they want to do when they have to do it. Take you, for example. You're a husband, a father, and an artist.
True.
You have carved out and found a way to make all of those things work. And you are even so much more than all three things I just listed. But you are able to make it work versus someone who's like, I'm a father, I can't rap no more now. I'm just a father. Or I'm a husband now, so I can't be going out to do shows. I'm a husband, I gotta go back to the wife,
Right.
But you found a respectable and lovable way to make it all work.
Right.
And that just goes to show how much drive you have for that as opposed to the next guy.
Right. Yes.
So,
and I appreciate you pointing that out, man, because I hate when people limit themselves like that. You know what I mean? Like people will see me just 2 months ago. I was out in Deep Ellum. I had my wife, my son. We're sitting on the block. I'm shooting content, and they're just sitting there watching. You know what I mean? Like there's no limitations.
Absolutely.
If you want it, you can make it happen.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
The hunger over anything for me, man.
Yep.
Always will be. And I just hope even after I get to where I'm trying to get to, that I'm still able to maintain that.
Oh,
because
for sure.
I'm very hungry for it, which is why, I got this place. Been here 3-4 years, give or take. I sectioned out this room to do what I'm doing.
There you go.
And I keep a job. I do all of those things all to feel what I'm doing.
Yep.
So it's just fuel to the gas, fuel to the flames, basically.
Right.
To make sure I'm able to do this to, the fullest potential and the fullest volume I could give it. And like I said, life happens, things happen, but I am doing everything in my power to make sure every priority is where it needs to be,
Yep.
and everything is equally fed the way they need it.
Balance.
Yeah, I truly appreciate you, coming and sitting with me, man. It's
Thank
been
you.
a real honor having you on Oracle Unveiled, and I believe this is definitely one of my favorite episodes so far, and we've had, really amazing people sit in that chair, but this one hit home for me right from the start to, the end, and, I really hope anyone listening also resonates as much as I did, hearing you.
Thank you,
So,
brother.
thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you, brother. Thank you
Of
for
course.
having me, man.
Of course.